I never believed a child's drawing could destroy everything I thought I knew about my family. But the day my grandson filled an entire notebook with the same lonely house, I realized some secrets refused to stay buried. What I found behind that old front door changed my life forever. My name is Daniel. I turned 70 just a few months before all of this happened. At my age, I thought I had already seen every kind of heartbreak a man could face. I had buried friends, lost my wife to cancer, and watched my family slowly grow apart over the years. The one bright light I still had was my 8-year-old grandson, Ethan. He was the kind of kid who could make an ordinary afternoon feel like Christmas morning. He laughed at terrible jokes, loved drawing superheroes, and talked so much that you could barely keep up with him. Then one weekend, everything changed. Ethan spent 3 days with his father, my son, Michael. They had recently started seeing each other again after months of little contact, following a difficult divorce. I thought the visit might help repair their relationship. I even told Ethan to enjoy every minute with his dad, because fathers and sons deserved second chances. When my daughter Emily brought Ethan back to my house that Sunday evening, she looked worried before she even stepped out of the car. She leaned close to me and whispered that something wasn't right. Ethan hadn't spoken a single word during the drive home. At first, she thought he was simply tired, but after 3 hours of complete silence, she became frightened. I opened the passenger door and smiled at my grandson. Normally, he would jump into my arms before I even had the chance to say hello. This time, he looked straight through me. His eyes were wide, almost frozen. He climbed out of the car without making a sound and held a small sketchbook tightly against his chest, as if someone might try to take it away. That night, we tried everything. Emily cooked his favorite macaroni and cheese. I put on the old baseball game we always watched together. We asked simple questions. Did he have fun? Was he feeling sick? Did something happen? Ethan never answered. He simply shook his head whenever anyone asked if he wanted to talk. Later that evening, I noticed him sitting alone at the dining room table with a pencil in his hand. He opened the sketchbook and started drawing. I expected to see dinosaurs or race cars, the things he always loved. Instead, he carefully sketched an old 2-story house with broken windows, a crooked front porch, and a giant oak tree standing beside it. He finished the drawing, turned the page, and drew the exact same house again. Then again and again. Every page looked almost identical. The next morning, I counted nearly 40 drawings of that same strange house. One detail caught my attention. In every picture, there was a small upstairs window. Behind the glass, Ethan had drawn a tiny black shape that looked almost like someone standing there. I asked him softly, "Is someone inside?" For the first time since he came home, Ethan reacted. His hands stopped moving. His breathing became faster. Then he slowly closed the notebook, hugged it against his chest, and walked away without saying a single word. That moment sent a chill through me. This wasn't just a child's imagination. He wasn't drawing monsters or ghosts. He was trying to tell us something the only way he knew how. Emily wanted to call Michael immediately, but I asked her to wait until morning. I didn't want to accuse my own son of anything without knowing the truth. Still, I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that lonely house and the dark figure staring through the upstairs window. The following morning, I called Michael. He answered on the third ring, sounding calm, almost too calm. He insisted the weekend had been perfect. They watched movies, ordered pizza, and spent time fishing at a nearby lake. According to him, Ethan had laughed the entire weekend. His story didn't match what I was seeing. After hanging up, I walked back into the living room. Ethan was sitting on the floor. He had opened a brand new notebook, and he was drawing the same house all over again. I stood there for several seconds without saying a word. Ethan never looked up. His pencil moved slowly across the page, adding every detail with the same careful hand. The broken porch, the tall oak tree, the cracked chimney, and, just like before, the dark figure standing in the upstairs window. It was impossible to believe he was making it up. He remembered every corner of that place too well. I sat beside him and gently slid a map of our county across the table. I pointed to different towns and roads, hoping he might recognize something. He ignored every location until I reached a small area north of the river. Without hesitation, he tapped the paper with his finger. Then he picked up his pencil and drew a tiny circle around an old back road that most people barely used anymore. That was the first clue he had given us. Emily looked at me, her face pale with worry. "Dad, don't even think about going out there alone." "I have to," I said quietly. "If Ethan is trying this hard to tell us something, I can't ignore it." Before leaving, I called Michael one more time. This time, he didn't answer. I left a message asking him where he had taken Ethan over the weekend. Minutes passed, then an hour. Still nothing. The silence made me even more uneasy. I drove north that afternoon with Ethan's sketchbook resting on the passenger seat. The farther I traveled, the fewer houses I saw. Paved roads turned into gravel. Cell service faded. Tall trees crowded both sides of the road until sunlight barely reached the ground. Then I saw it. At the end of a narrow dirt lane stood an old two-story house. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. It was the same house, the leaning porch, the broken upstairs window, the giant oak tree. Every detail matched Ethan's drawings. I parked nearly 100 yards away and simply stared. The place looked abandoned. Weeds covered the yard. Paint peeled from the walls. One shutter hung loose, swinging gently in the wind. Yet something about the house didn't feel empty. It felt like someone was watching me. As I stepped out of the truck, the air seemed strangely quiet. No birds, no insects, only the sound of the wind moving through the trees. I walked toward the porch, each step slower than the last. The front door was slightly open. I knocked. No answer. I pushed the door a few inches wider. "Damn," I whispered. The inside was covered in dust, but not enough for a place that had been abandoned for years. There were fresh footprints across the wooden floor. Someone had been here recently. I followed the footprints into the living room. An old couch sat against the wall. A fireplace was filled with cold ashes. On a small table rested a child's red baseball cap. I recognized it instantly. It belonged to Ethan. My heart started pounding. Why was my grandson's cap inside this house? I picked it up. It was clean, as if it had been left only a day or two earlier. Then I heard it, a slow creak from upstairs. I froze. Someone was moving. Every instinct told me to leave, but I couldn't. I climbed the staircase one careful step at a time. Halfway up, another floorboard creaked above me. Whoever was there knew I was coming. When I reached the second floor, a narrow hallway stretched ahead. 3 doors stood closed. The first room was empty. The second contained nothing but old furniture covered with white sheets. The third door was locked. I placed my hand on the knob. From the other side, I heard a quiet voice, not loud, not frightened, just calm. "I knew you'd come." The voice belonged to an older man. Before I could answer, the lock clicked by itself. The door slowly opened. A gray-haired stranger stood inside the room, looking directly into my eyes, as if he had been expecting me for years. He didn't look surprised. He didn't ask who I was. Instead, he spoke the words that made my blood run cold. "Daniel, your grandson isn't the first child your son has brought to this house.